Manton called back Thursday afternoon and said they would swap this Manton rocker arms for some stage 5s that would work better for this application. I've run the stage 5s on the purple shafts before and they do fit. So everything should be wonder. And they'll be 1.6 instead of these were 1.7 on the intake. They said they wanted us to send these back before they send them, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. These weren't going to work for us, and so it turned out good for everybody. The owner didn't want to get into the short block if possible. I mean, he paid good money for this thing, and he, of course, wants to get some use out of it as is, and I don't blame him at all for that. But the short block looks good. They're not, pistons aren't loose in the bores. The bores aren't scratched. There doesn't look like any heavy wear. So I think everybody's going to be happy with that. As soon as we can get the heads cleaned up, they were filthy. But as soon as we can get them cleaned up and clean up this deck surface, we'll put that back on. I think today might put in the cam and the lifters, see how the lifters are going to work with everything. I called BAM about that part number of lifters because I'm not familiar with them, and they told me everything was going to be wonderful, so that was good to hear. But the owner's coming down this morning, and he's going to help me with it, cleaning up things and stuff. I mean, I don't know if I told you what the story was, the reason he wanted this engine, but his father had a 71 Challenger convertible, and he wanted to restore it, and he wanted to put a Hemi in it. And I guess his father died, and so that's what this is all about. He's wanting to do what his dad wanted to do with this car, and that's why we're going through all this. I thought just for fun I'd lay a Felpro head gasket on here and I think he's got some new Cometics over there in the box somewhere to put on here, but for some reason I wanted to try this. If you don't trim some of these here, you'll see marks on your push rods where you didn't trim it back enough for clearance. But when I put this on here, that looks kind of tight right there, which didn't look normal to me. It kind of made me think maybe it had been bored or something. So I got a mic, and yes, I guess when the guy put that cam in, he overboard it 30 over, which doesn't hurt the owner. He's just putting this in a street car, and it doesn't really matter. It just makes things like this more challenging, where you can't use a standard 1104 head gasket. That's just a little tight right there, I think. I don't know what the real number is on this. Cometic says they want theirs back 15 to, is it 15 to 30? Or maybe it's 15 to 45, but we're not really back much at all. It won't hurt him for what he's doing. Then I noticed one of those connecting rods in there being a H-beam, and it never says in any of the crate motor ads what they were supposed to have in them for rods, but I don't really know what they had. This has H-beam rods in it for some reason, but that shouldn't hurt him either. I know what you're thinking. You're wondering, why is this valve keeper silver down there in the bottom when nothing is supposed to touch that, and keepers come all black? And you're wondering why that's shiny. And then you're wondering why this slash cap is shiny on the bottom here. You're wondering why that is, because you know that lash caps are all black and that doesn't touch anything, and so you can't figure that out. Well, there's a reason, folks. This lash cap is 110 thousandths deep, and the measurement from the tip of this valve to the top of that keeper right down in there is about 107. So guess what? This lash cap has been pounding this keeper until all the black's pounded off of it. Yeah. It's really nice. Look over your stuff better than this when you put it together. You don't want to be dropping a valve at the track or totally disintegrating your engine, do you? Well, I can't seem to get the harmonic balancer off, and I've been using the tool, and so I've knocked it down. But this came out of right here, where and you can see the Loctite in the keyway there. But I guess they drove this balancer on the crank with Loctite, because the Loctite was right here before. You can still see a little tint of red here and there. So it's going to take some work to get it off of there. It's not coming. And of course, one of these Allen bolts, I think they were Loctited into, and that Allen bolt rounded off. So that'll be my afternoon, folks. I don't know if there's Loctite there, and then it's going to be an interesting day. Well, after I ruined my first harmonic balancer puller, then that didn't work, and I ended up using the installation tool, but I think I've ruined that one too. Of course, normally this would be threaded into the block, but because we had that pulley on there and couldn't do it and had to butt it up into there, yeah, right. So I ended up putting heat in the crank right there to break loose that red Loctite. Of course, you try to be careful and not put too much heat on it, but you're trying to get some work done, so I don't know. But it came off. I just had to sacrifice another puller. But then the owner said, well, the guy I bought this from said the rear main seal was leaking. Well, if the rear, that's not easy to change, you know. And if it's glued in, like this oil pan was glued on, I think we turned the windage tray into a pretzel, getting the oil pan off. But if that rear main seal is glued into the block, that's not going to come out, folks. Not without taking out the crank. And if you're going to take out the crank, you're probably going to have to take out the pistons and rods. Now we're down to a bare block. This turned into a total rebuild. What happened to just changing the cam? I don't know how I get myself into these things, but I'm going to try to tap out that rear main seal, and it just has to come out. If it doesn't, it's going to be the end of the world. So that's the plan anyway. Okay, I feel better now. The rear main seal came out, so this won't be as big a deal. It's still going to be a lot of work cleaning all this back up and everything, but looks like it's got diamond pistons and eagle rods. I'm not sure whose crank that is. And obviously been balanced. The good news is getting the seal out, because this was going to turn into a really, really bad deal. Now all I got to do is take off the flex plate and get in here to clean this area up and put in a rear main seal. These rocker shafts, I don't know what to say. I've really never seen any that were worn that bad or scored that, whatever you want to call that. I don't even know what does that. I don't, I mean, I think they'll still work fine, but why is that like that? These are not the stock street Hemi shafts. You know, this is good chrome shafts, but they seem to have really taken a, I don't know, I'm just, some are worse than others. I mean, I think you can sand this down or whatever and be fine, but I guess this, see, this one's a little worn, but not the end of the world. But this one, that's really, I mean, what's that guy say on the McDonald's commercial? That's just not natural. I don't know what's going on here. But I think we can sand them down. I think they'll be fine. I've never seen chrome shafts act like that, so I don't know. Kind of like a girl I went to high school. Her name was Lucy. I know, it looks a little slack. I don't guess that hurt anything. I've taken the old cam out and looked at the cam bearings, and they all looked good. I've measured the cam journals on this cam, and they're all within spec. They're nice. I've, of course, checked the oil hole here in the number 4 journal, and it's clean and pretty in there. And now we have to, of course, check the camshaft straightness, and it appears to be wonderful. So, that's the cam card. It's the smallest cam ever made for a 426 Hemi, probably, roller cam. 236 duration and a 520 lift. It'll be a little more because we're using 1.6 rockers, whereas the stock rockers are 1.5 something. So it'll be a little bigger there. And the bronze gear came in for the intermediate shaft. It's a whole shaft, everything together from Mylodon. But everything looks wonderful. We're going to be held up on parts, though, because we're going to be waiting on the fast fish rear seal and the rocker arms from Manton/Stage 5 and the heads to be from the ultrasonic. We'll probably get all of that back in time, and we're going to have to get a different type of gasket. We destroyed that windage tray. But we're going to get all that in. It'll just probably take a while to get it all, and then we'll start piecing it back together.